Shalom, I'm going to give all praise, honor, glory to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, the bondage to the elders and apostles of the great millstone who do rule and teach well. This is the book of Revelation, the 9th chapter, the first verse. The fifth angel sounded, and saw a star fall from heaven to the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. Right, so the fifth angel represents the first of the last three worlds. The last three worlds represents the three world wars, World War I, World War II, World War III, obviously. Look into that letter from Albert Pike to Giuseppe Mazzini, which they say he started the Italian Mafia. I think he was involved in some Italian revolution or something, but look into that. Bottomless pit is in Europe because there's a lack of natural resources there, right? And all you gotta do is do a simple Google search. Let me get my glasses. All right, so I'm here at nationalgeographic.org. Resource, European resources, right? Europe has limited deposits of oil and natural gas, which are drilled for energy and fuel. Russia has some of the largest oil deposits on the planet, although most of them are in the remote Asian part of the country. Russia is also the world's largest exporter of natural gas. Norway has significant oil deposits and is the second largest exporter of natural gas. The Netherlands and the United Kingdom are Europe's other major producers of natural gas. The United Kingdom's offshore facilities in the North Sea are Europe's second largest producer of oil. Alright, so that's your answer right there. The bottomless pit is referring to Europe. It is also the bottomless pit is referring to Europe because if you hear the beasts are originally the Roman Empire, right? And the 10 heads and seven heads and the 10 horns back then. You know, you had basically the different empires that Rome conquered back then, you know, these different tribes, Celebes, the Lombards, these nations that were all across Britannia, the Gauls, which is now France, parts of Switzerland, and I believe also Germany. Germany I believe is actually its own thing. Don't quote me on that, but I think part of Germany is in Gaul. It's kind of like Germany, France, and Switzerland, I believe, but don't quote me on that, you know, look it up. Alright, and the bottomless pit is referring to Europe, essentially, right? Verse 2, and he opened the bottomless pit, and there rose a smoke out of the pit, as smoke of a great furnace, as the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit, right? It's referring to World War I, right? Well, that smoke exhaust from all the planes and jets and all the fighting and, you know, tanks and so on and so forth. That's what's referring to that there within World War I, right? All that smoke. Right. I'm thinking of this too. You had different chemicals as well. Yeah, so World War I chemical warfare. Slovakia. So chemical warfare and medical response to World War I. And this is just a NIH article, but I'm going to read it anyway. This is the abstract, which is pretty much like a summary of the paper. The first large-scale use for traditional weapon of mass destruction, chemical, biological, nuclear, involved the successful deployment of chemical weapons during World War I, 1914 to 1918. So we're going to read it down in Revelation 9th chapter. World War I was actually technically 5 years long, if you count because you had to refer to the Treaty of Versailles, which technically makes it 1914 to 1918, but the armistice really put the end of the war in 1918 or so. So historians now refer to the Great War as the Chemists' War because the scientific and engineering mobilization efforts by the major belligerents. The development, production, and deployment of war gases such as chlorine, phosgene, and mustard create a new and complex public health threat that endangered not only soldiers and civilians in the battlefield, but also chemical workers on the home front involved in the large-scale manufacturing processes. The story of chemical weapons research and development during that war provides useful insights for current public health practitioners faced with possible chemical weapons attacks against civilian or military populations, right? And you know, those war on terror and thing like that. Oh, this guy's using chemical gas, and come to find out he really didn't. But they make shit up. I think they said that about was it Saddam? Said about him. Let's see here, ban, because I remember after this, after that they banned it. Yeah, the world banned political. While the world banned chemical weapons, political.eu. Cause it's fucking horrible, you know. Those weapons will fucking destroy you. And those helmets, those World War One gas masks, they've kind of become iconic now. Within kind of like I guess called grungy kind of culture. They're kind of famous. Guys like to put on fucking gas masks and shit because they think it looks cool. But that's where it really comes from. Who knows if they know that? Right, World War verse 3, and they came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and to them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power, and the locusts of the World War One fighter jets. We're going to prove that's not talking about actual locusts in the 4th verse. And then the scorpions are tail guns, right? Because, a scorpion stings you with the tail, and it, stings you with the tail, the fucking poison and shit, right? It comes over and hits you, John likened it just to locusts because he did not know he was seeing. It looked like locusts, right? And you had different planes back then. Some had rear gunners. You had a front gunner, and then you had a rear gunner. It was commanded that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, only those men which have not the seal of the Most High in their foreheads. Right? It's not hurt the grass, right? And John noticed that the locusts were not eating the grass because they were not real locusts. Rather, the locusts were the fighter jets, and they were shooting at men. Yep, because it was man-on-man warfare. As read on down, it gets to more detail. These men which have not the seal of the Most High, the men of luck, will not die during World War One, right? Because chances are, the men that were fighting in World War One were probably, maybe your great-grandfather or your grandfather or something. And now it's around about 3 so generations. That's 75 years, 100 years. You possibly could have fought in that war. You actually had Jakes that were involved in that war anyway. That they brought overseas to go fight. And you got let me see here, the famous one, World War One. What's it? Harlem. Yeah, so World War One, Harlem Hellfighters, and honestly, you could look up more stuff. And was it World War One? Yeah. The Hellfighters, 100 years ago, the Harlem Hellfighters is Smithsonian Magazine. Just pulled up a random article, okay? 100 years ago, the Harlem Hellfighters bravely led the U.S. into World War One. Their courage made headlines across the country, hailing the African American regiment as heroes, even as they faced discrimination at home. So it's very possible your great-grandfather or your granddaddy was fighting in this war, and that could have been you all the way back then, So the Lord made sure that you were preserved. Maybe you lost an arm, maybe you lost a leg, maybe you didn't lose anything, but you made sure you came back. So you can make some babies, and you could come back again in this time now, right? That is if you back then, if you were. I'm speaking about Judites, I'm speaking about Judites essentially, these Harlem Hellfighters, because you could look like a Judite, but your family lineage may not have looked like Judites in the past, like dark skin and stuff like that. As myself, because I have an Amalekite name, and you say, "Oh, you're a fucking Amalekite." It's like, no. My family just, my ancestors, they looked Amalekite, but they're not Amalekites. Okay, I'm not an Amalekite. Okay, trust me, bro. All right, I have faith that I am no Edomite. Trust me. My spirit and just the way I act, my demeanor, it's not Edomite behavior. I don't have Edomite behavior at all. Alright. So Private Henry Johnson of Albany, New York, held tight his friend's Lebel rifle and stared into the darkness of no man's land, listening for German raiders beyond the parapet. He could make out shapes and shadows under the rainy moon, and as you kind of read on down, right? And they kind of go into kind of things about the war. I'm not going to read that. Okay, I can read here. I can read on down, talk about a little summary, and they talk about accounts, right? The Hellfighters, the most celebrated African regiment in World War One, confronted racism as they trained for war, helped bring jazz to France. I think the French actually honor them and stuff. Then battled Germany longer than almost any other American doughboys. The nickname's origin is unclear. It was possibly coined by enemy fighters, the American press, or both. Like their predecessors in Civil War and successors in the wars that followed, these African American troops fought a war for a country that refused them basic rights, and their bravery stood as a rebuke to racism and moral claim to first-class citizenship. They were mostly New Yorkers, the first black troops in their state's National Guard. After years of lobbying by civic leaders from Harlem, Manhattan's celebrated black neighborhood Governor Charles Whitman finally formed the all-black unit. And there's a scripture that you can read that talks about, Jake's basically laying on the ground to be stepped all over. Basically Jake becoming a sellout. Man, that scripture, leaders become dumb dogs that have not barked. Leaders of our people have always been sellouts in history. I mean, even going to W.E. Du Bois or one of those guys, man, found out to be sellouts, and they were kind of going. Oh no! It was that runner. It's that runner. They say he was a sellout. What's his name? Black runner, and this is talking about the Second World, or kind of during World War II, because of the presence of Adolf Hitler, right? Who he died in 1945. Okay, so you both probably know I'm talking about, the runner, that Jesse Owens, right? He proved that there was no Edomite master race, no Aryan master race, bunch of baloney. So Jesse Owens he was against civil rights. I'm gonna go see if that's true, because I heard some guy, right? Regarded by new generation civil rights activists as racially naive, Owens continued to endorse the promise of American egalitarianism, and even leading the charge against advocates of black power who protested racism in the United States at the 1968 Olympic Games in Mexico City. So yeah, that's Jesse Owens. He was not standing for that stuff, which honestly I don't really feel like that's something an athlete should really be doing. Muhammad Ali had the right picture, even though he didn't have the right picture in other things, man. He has so much fucking kids, like it's fucking wild, bro. Like they say he had women of like everyone, man, like all over the fucking place, man. But the thing is, you should if you gonna go around and make all them babies, man, you gotta step up. You gotta step up and start, putting them kids out there and claim them. You can't just make babies a woman and just kind of drop them. And then the woman go out and get with another guy, and that's adultery, dude. So verse 5, and unto them was given that they should not kill them, but they should be tormented 5 months. That torment was the term of a scorpion when he striketh a man. 5 months is 5 years, right? You can read all that right there. 1914 to 1918, which is the armistice. And then you got 1919, which is the Treaty of Versailles. Right, torment of a scorpion referring to the tail gun, right? In the Treaty of Versailles. Then you get the big reparations on Germany, which pretty much paralyzed the nation, leading all the way up to World War II. You had that Weimar Republic time period and things like that. Rampant inflation. The Malachites were basically having a field day. Rampant pornography. Rampant prostitution. And then Hitler becomes chancellor in 1933, and he kind of pulls it all together, which Hitler himself was a Rothschild plan anyway. So it's just a big mess, right? In those days shall men seek death and shall not find it, shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them, right? So men were wounded, but they prefer to die and live physically immensely wounded, right? And again, their faces blown off, the plastic surgery was around, guys losing arms, guys using legs. Let's look up common wounds World War I. Let's look that up. I'm gonna get a laptop right now. So common wounds World War I. So just looking it up, heavy use. So this is a National Institute of Health once again. The use of heavy artillery and machine guns, as well as chemical warfare, caused serious and life-threatening lesions and wounds. The most frequent cause of death were not mainly related to gunshot wounds, but rather to fractures, tetanus, and septic complications of infectious diseases. So yeah, all those diseases was coming around. So stuff like that was messing with people, man, fucking them up. So this is World War I Centennial Commission, and this is Okay, so we're pushing 20 minutes here. We're gonna get ready to shut it down for now. And we'll come back with 7, and maybe we'll go for 7 to 12 or something. But I'm probably going to speed through the next part because I just, want to get to this information. So, injuries in World War I introduction. This is World War I Centennial.org. The treatment of wounds goes back to the dawn of recorded history. By World War I, however, there have been several fundamental improvements resulting in drastically improved care of battlefield wounds. First, the development of effective local and general anesthesia allows surgeons to take as much time as they need to debride and repair wounds, right? And that's why people were able to seeking death but could not find it, because medicine was basically growing. Second, the recognition that bacterial contamination caused postoperative infections prompted the development of aseptic surgery, in which everything used during operation is sterilized, which is still used to this day. Right? They have to have sterilized equipment. They have to have it all clean, right? Third, debridement, which is complete cleaning of the wound, including excision of the vitalized tissue, became standard surgical treatment. Right, so you got that, and then wounds and physical injuries in modern surgery. Modern surgery magically transported 100 years ago would find that much that was similar. The first principle of wound treatment is and has been debridement, right, and then cleaning the wound. They used antisepsis because they didn't really have antibiotics back then. What kind of wounds were commonly seen? While popular literature emphasizes machine guns, rifles, and bayonets, the grim reality was that 2/3 of all casualties on the Western Front was produced by artillery shells. Machine guns and rifles used the same ammunition between them, produced most of the rest. Bayonet wounds were so uncommon that they were tabulated under miscellaneous wounds. In hospital logbooks, shrapnel from bursting artillery shells produced particularly ugly wounds, resulting a great deal of tissue damage and foreign material carried into the wound, including dirt from the trench environment. Frequently, the unfortunate soldier was also buried in a collapsed trench. So that was the big cause of it, right? You had burn injuries, right? And obviously burn injuries are pretty possible, and they said they use skin grafts and things like that. Gas injuries, right? They used poison gas, first introduced in 1915, right? Just want to get on it because you could just kind of read this for yourself, right? And you have psychological injuries. So everything as we're saying here is the exact same thing, right? The whole shell shock, you hear it sounds like a lot of boom, and they run and jump under the bed. PTSD, which still around to this day. They have a scene in that movie, American Sniper, which kind of shows that. I think he's like watching TV or something, and then I think a dog makes noise, and he goes to try to choke the dog out. You know what I mean? But yeah, so that's pretty much that. Little Winnie Artificial.